Good morning, and welcome to All People's Church, Unitarian Universalist. My name is Tina Harmuth, and I'm serving as your worship leader today with our guest speaker, John Beckett, whom we're happy to welcome back to the pulpit. Also, we welcome John's colleague, Cynthia Talbot, who is here today to present the story for all ages. It's so good to see all of you here today. We extend a special welcome to our visitors. If you haven't done so, we invite you to stop at the visitors table by the front door and place your name on our mailing list to receive our weekly email and monthly newsletter. And we hope you'll be able to join us following the service for refreshments and conversation. Our Sunday service is a shared time of worship for all present, as we gather for music, spoken words, and a time of reflection and inspiration as a religious community. Let us come together in a spirit of compassion and respect for ourselves and others attending this service. Before we continue on to worship, there are some announcements. Please join us after service today in Coleman Hall for a sandwich bar. This is a fundraiser organizer by the Youth and RE Council that benefits the youth program. Spring is here and warm weather is coming, so think about the prospect of growing your own food and herbs for the next 7 months. Our community garden is all tilled and ready, so lease a plot and help the church for a small lease fee. Easter is right around the corner. We have an Easter boxed food hunt on April 9th to benefit Eastside Ministries. Please bring boxed or canned items next Sunday on the 2nd and enjoy the show. Just a reminder to sign up also for the Hungry Hound Hustle, which is going to be on the 22nd of April. Go to the website don'tforgettofeedme.org for details. If you would like to make a donation to Don't Forget to Feed Me, see Joe Burnham. And thank you from all the pets and owners with love. Our last announcement is an introduction of our guest speaker today, John Beckett. John comes to us from the Denton UU Fellowship. He is a Druid in the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids, a member of the Denton Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans, and a former vice president of CUPS Continental. He's been writing, speaking, teaching, and leading public rituals since 2003. His books, The Path of Paganism from 2017 and Paganism in Depth from 2019 are published by Llewellyn Worldwide. Welcome back, John. John is joined this morning by Cynthia Talbot, who is also a member of Denton UU and is the coordinating officer of Denton CUPS. Cynthia will be telling our story for all ages this morning. Welcome, Cynthia. And now, please settle comfortably for our musical prelude.
Our call to worship this morning is from the Buddhist tradition, the Sutta Nipata. In safety and in bliss may all creatures be of a blissful heart. Whatever breathing beings there may be, frail or firm, long or big, short or small, seen or unseen, dwelling far or near, existing or yet seeking to exist, may all creatures be of a blissful heart.
I now invite you to stand in body or spirit for our chalice lighting, our opening hymn, and our spoken affirmation. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Join now in singing our opening hymn, number 134, Our World is One World. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. You may be seated. Thank you. When I came to this church, my motivation was my children. I wanted a religious education for them, but I didn't want them to be pushed into any faiths that felt wrong to them. Unitarian Universalism seemed a perfect fit. This was the closest UU church to me, and I loved the look of the place. I parked in the back and I came over the bridge, and it just felt right to me. And it wasn't long until I was coming here for me, as well as my kids. Since that day, 16 years ago, when I first set foot inside this sacred space, I have learned so much, thanks to the spiritual development offerings here, and the people who participated in those classes and workshops alongside me. I've acquired better communication skills. I've gotten in touch with my conscience in a way that I never realized I was lacking, and I've defined and redefined my values. I've had the opportunity to be part of social justice and charitable work that is meaningful to me and which I could not have done on my own. I've made friends whom I admire very much and who teach me new things on a regular basis. This place and you, its congregation, have made me a better person. All People's Church has played an enormous positive role in the person I am today, and I am so, so grateful to be part of its congregation. This was Light on Stewardship. Thank you. We now invite the young and the young at heart to come forward for our Time for All Ages.
Oh, I have no kiddos. Oh, yay! I can... So, well, all right then. There's not quite enough pillows. Is it all right if you all just sit on the floor? All right then. Thank you all so much for coming to hear my story. The story today is The Brown Bear of the Green Glen. And it's a story from Ireland that my gram might have heard there about 100 years ago, but I'm going to tell it to you all now, all right? So here we go. In Ireland, there was once a king who had 3 sons. Ian was the youngest one, and he was often said to be a fool, but he wasn't. The king fell ill. His eyes blurred, and he could not stand. So the 2 older brothers said that they would go to seek 3 bottles of water from the Green Isle to cure him. And so they rode off on 2 fine horses. Ian wanted to go too. So he saddled up an old white pony and followed them. When he got to the nearest town, he found them carousing in an inn, their father already forgotten. "Oh, my brothers," he said, "this is not the way to the Green Isle." "Go home," they said. "If you stay here pestering us, we'll kill you." They don't sound like very good brothers to me. How about to all of you? Nah, yeah. Nah. "Well, I don't want to stay with you anyway," said Ian. So he continued on his journey. At last he came to a great wild wood. Night was coming, and the old white pony was tired. So Ian began to feel frightened. He tied the pony to the root of a tree and climbed the tree himself to sleep. He hadn't been perched there long before he saw a huge brown bear coming with a fiery coal stuck in its mouth. It looked like that. "Come down, son of the King of Ireland," said the bear around the coal in its mouth. "Indeed I won't," said Ian. "I think I'm safer where I am." "If you'll not come down," said the bear, "I must go up," and began to climb the tree. Ian scrambled a bit higher up, and as he did, his foot hit the bear in its mouth and knocked the coal free. "Thank you," said the bear, as he continued to climb the tree. I see that you can climb after all," said Ian. "But there's no need. If you'll stand back, I'll come down and join you." And so Ian came down to the ground and stood talking to the bear. "Are you hungry?" asked the bear. I am a little," said Ian. So the bear spun around, reached out a paw, and caught a deer that was passing behind him. "So, son of the King of Ireland, would you like your share of the deer cooked or raw? Cooked, said Ian. Please. So, with the coal, they lit a fire, and Ian has his meat cooked while the bear ate his raw. Then the bear said, "Lie down between my paws, and you need fear nothing until morning." So Ian did, and when he woke, it was dawn. "I think we'd best be going," said the bear, "for 'tis a long journey. Are you a good rider?" Good enough, I suppose," said Ian. He was a little surprised the bear meant to go with him. "Well, climb on me then," said the bear. So Ian climbed on the bear and hung on with his arms and his legs, and his fingers clenched tight in the bear's fur, and off they went for 200 miles, for the bear was very fast. They reached a giant's house, and the bear said, "Now, Ian, you'll find this giant pretty grumpy. But you must not be afraid to tell him that the brown bear of the Green Glen sent you, and he'll give you food and shelter. And I'll come for you in the morning." So Ian went to the giant's house, and the giant shouted, "Ha! I have you now, son of the King of Ireland. I shall trample you into the dirt." "No, you shall not," said Ian, "for the brown bear of the Green Glen sent me." "Oh," said the giant. "Well, that's all right then. In that case, you shall be cared well for tonight." And he was true to his word. The next day, the bear took him to another giant's house for the night. "This giant," said the bear, "will be angry and try and attack you, but you must stand your ground and tell him that I sent you." So again, Ian went to the giant's house, and the giant shouted at him, "Aha! I have you now, son of the King of Ireland. I did not get your father, but I'll get you, and I will blow you sky high." And he roared with such a gale of wind that it threatened to blow Ian right off his feet. "No, you shall not, for the brown bear of the Green Glen has sent me." "Oh, well, in that case, you'll be my guest tonight." And the giant was true to his word too. The next day, the bear took him to a third giant's house. "This is the fiercest of them all," said the bear. "He will want to wrestle you, but if you fear you might be winning, tell him the brown bear of the Green Glen was here, and he told me he would beat you." So Ian went into the giant's house, and this one shouted at him too, "Now I shall have you, son of the King of Ireland," and leapt at Ian and threw him right out the door. Doesn't sound very hospitable to me. Ian and the giant wrestled a bit, and the giant caught Ian in such a grip that he thought his back would break in two. But he managed to squeak out, "If the brown bear of the Green Glen was here with me, he would beat you." And suddenly the bear was there, with his claws out and his mouth in a snarl, and so the giant let Ian go. "You have won, son of the King of Ireland, and therefore I will help you on your quest. Over there is a carcass of a sheep. Soon an eagle will come to settle on it. Tell the eagle I sent you, and it will take you to the Green Isle." So Ian did, and when the eagle arrived, it said, "I will take you to the Green Isle. Climb up between my wings," and off they flew over the ocean. "There's the well," said the eagle, "but be quick before the guard dogs or the lady sees you." Next to the well, there was a small cottage in need of more than a little repair. But when Ian got down from the eagle and went to the well, an old woman came out of the cottage. "You there! What are you doing at my well?" she grumbled. I was gathering 3 jugs of water to take to my father," said Ian. "He is very ill." "Well, you shan't have them for nothing. I have things that need doing here. You can fix my roof and fix the door and till the garden, and then you can have your water. 3 jugs full for 3 tasks done. Well, that certainly seemed fair to Ian, so he set to work. He rethatched the roof, and he set the door on its hinges, and was tilling the garden when he cut himself on the hoe and started bleeding into the dirt. "Now, 'tisn't that strange," said the old woman, "for you are the youngest son of the King of Ireland, and not the heir. Well, not to be done about it now. Come inside and I'll fix your finger and we'll eat." And so Ian went in and let her fix his finger, and she pulled out a bottle of whiskey, a wheel of cheese, and a loaf of bread. And when she poured Ian a whiskey, the bottle she poured it from magically refilled. And when she cut him some cheese and some bread, they both magically reformed too, no matter how much they cut off or drank. There was always just as much left. You had a question. "You have done all I asked of you," said the old woman, "and so you may have your water and also these foodstuffs to take with you. But I have one more request of you for the tending of your cut." Whatever I can do for you," Ian replied. "Give an old woman a kiss goodbye then, son of the King of Ireland." Well, Ian really didn't want to kiss the old woman, but hospitality was hospitality. And so he packed up the magical food and whiskey, got his water jugs full of the healing well water, and then kissed the old woman goodbye. "Now, 'tisn't that strange," said the old woman, "for you are the youngest son of the king and not the heir. Well, there's naught to be done about it now, but you've done what I asked, and so go with my blessing." And so the eagle carried Ian away, and neither noticed that the old woman had become very beautiful and very strong and very young when they left. Back to Ireland they flew, and Ian found the brown bear in the green glen waiting. He thanked the eagle for its help. Back they went to the giants' houses, and to thank them for their hospitality, Ian gave the first one the bottle of whiskey, and the second one the bread, and the third one the cheese, asking only that if the old woman ever came to ask for them back, that they would give them to her. They agreed. And the brown bear of the green glen took Ian back to his pony, who had been resting and grazing happily in the forest. Ian thanked the brown bear profusely. "You have done me a favor, and I have done you a favor," said the bear. "Now go and see to your father." So Ian rode back to the town where he'd left his brothers, and they were still carousing at the inn. They hadn't done a blessed thing. "I have 3 bottles of water from the Green Isle," Ian said. "Let's go home to our father." Well, the brothers set off together, but as they neared home, the 2 older brothers set upon Ian, beat him up, threw him in a ditch, and stole the water. They really are pretty horrible brothers. Yeah. Yeah, he should have just gone back on his own. So they left Ian for dead in the ditch and went home to their father to boast how they had gotten the healing waters from the Green Isle. But as Ian lay in the ditch, he heard a low rumble and the thunder of something very large moving near. "Please help me," he called out. And the brown bear of the green glen looked down at him and said, "I will get you to the lady for healing, and then we will see how fast your brothers can run." But that is another story for another time. So we will now say goodbye to our children as they return to their classroom or the kitchen, I believe. Please join me for the children's recessional number 414 as we leave this friendly place.
Thank you, Cynthia. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. Your contributions will benefit the missions of our church and also acts outreach to the larger community. We share the undesignated cash offerings in the collection as part of our Share the Plate program. Our recipient this month is the Center for Transforming Lives, a Fort Worth agency working with women and children to disrupt the cycle of poverty. The offering will now be gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward?
Why? Who makes much of a miracle? As to me, I know nothing else but miracles. Whether I walk the streets of Manhattan or dart my sight over the roofs of houses toward the sky, or wade with naked feet along the beach just in the edge of the water, or stand under trees in the woods, or talk by day with anyone I love, or sleep in the bed at night with anyone I love, or sit at the table at dinner with the rest, or look at strangers opposite me riding in the car, or watch honeybees busy around the hive of a summer afternoon, or animals feeding in the fields, or birds, or the wonderfulness of insects in the air, or the wonderfulness of the sundown, or of stars shining so quiet and bright, or the exquisite, delicate, thin curve of the new moon in spring. These, with the rest, one and all, are to me miracles, the whole referring, yet each distinct and in its place. To me, every hour of the light and dark is a miracle. Every cubic inch of space is a miracle. Every square yard of the surface of the earth is spread with the same. Every foot of the interior swarms with the same. To me, the sea is a continual miracle. The fishes that swim, the rocks, the motion of the waves, the ships with men in them. What stranger miracles are there?
At this time in our service, we pause to honor and to give time and attention to those things most important to us. We gather here for healing and for peace in our hearts, and to honor our time together with the shared stories and news from the congregation. Each week, there is a journal outside the entrance to the sanctuary where you can write a message of memory or hope. Also, at any time during the service, you are welcome to come forward and light a candle in our meditation center here at the side of the chancel. Today, from our book of memory and hope, we include Connie Nolan has been suffering severe leg pain and is consulting with her doctors about treatment and possible hip replacement surgery. Please keep her in your thoughts. For the first time in over 4 months, Andrew and Katie have working plumbing in their house. They can do great things like shower and wash dishes and clothes without going to his brother's house. Congratulations, you guys. That is excellent. And let us also include in our circle of concern those beyond our immediate community. Let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and soft, gentle coming of love. Please now settle comfortably and pause for a brief period of quiet meditation while Misha uplifts us with music.
How many of you share your homes with cats or dogs or other non-human animals? How many of you talk to them? How many of them talk back? If you understand that, you're well on your way to understanding animism. Those of us who have companion animals understand they're not pets. They're members of our families. We love them, feed them, care for them. When they die, we mourn them. We talk to them and they talk back. They don't speak human, and we don't speak cat or dog, but we can still communicate. They are persons and we have relationships with them, just like we have relationships with other humans. This is a source of annoyance for fundamentalists and other religious conservatives who insist that humans are categorically different from other animals. They argue that we alone are made in the image of their God. Science, of course, tells us something very different. Life originated once on Earth, and so we're related to every other living thing on this planet. Not only are chimpanzees and bonobos our closest genetic relatives, we're their closest relatives. They're closer to us than they are to the gorillas. Animism is compatible with science, but it is not a biological theory, nor is it a gap filler for those spaces where science has yet to discover the truth. Rather, animism is a set of principles for understanding and relating to persons in the natural world, both human and not. So, what is animism? Animism is the philosophical idea that whatever animates you and me also animates all other living beings. It's the idea that beings are not things but persons, and we can relate to them as persons. Animism is a worldview, a set of foundational assumptions about the world and how it works, how everything fits together, what is and isn't possible. For the most part, the assumptions of a worldview are neither provable nor disprovable. They're assumptions we make because hard proof is beyond us and we need a place to start. Worldviews are often expressed in myths, stories that, in words often attributed to C.S. Lewis, are about things that always were, things that never were but always are. I like to say that a myth is a story to live by. However we express it, a worldview is necessary for understanding the world and our place in it. Everyone has a worldview, whether they accept it or not. The most common worldview in our wider culture is materialism. This isn't consumerism. Philosophical materialism is the idea that the only thing that exists are matter and the interactions of matter. Materialism says that spirit, whether individual spirits or the human soul or some divine spirit, not only does not exist, it cannot exist. It says that consciousness is the product of brain activity, and when the brain dies, consciousness dies with it and is gone forever. Perhaps not. Whether consciousness survives death, and whether it is consciousness and not matter that is fundamental to existence, is another question for another time. What's important for this morning's exploration is that materialism is not a finding of science. Materialism is an assumption of some scientists. And animism is a philosophical alternative to materialism. Unlike what I was taught in school a long time ago, animism is not a primitive religion. It's not a religion at all. It's a metaphysics, something that comes before religion. The Victorian proto-anthropologists of the late 19th and early 20th centuries like to talk about religion as a progression from primitive to advanced, from animism to polytheism to monotheism to Christianity. And since many of them were British, to proper Anglican Christianity. Today, many people add atheism as the next and final step on this process. Each of these steps is not a step on some path of religious evolution, but an entirely different path. The idea of animism as a primitive religion fails to recognize that tribal religions are religions in their own right, the same as Islam or Buddhism or proper Anglican Christianity. Religions can be animistic. My own modern paganism is, but animism is not a religion. Animism is a worldview. Its foundational assumption is that whatever animates you and me also animates cats and dogs, trees and flowers, and mountains and rivers. We often think of mountains and rivers as inanimate. It takes poets like Walt Whitman to remind us that they are very much alive. Are they all alive? In his book, Animism, Respecting the Living World, Graham Harvey says that the Ojibwe people of Canada consider some rocks to be persons and some not, depending on how they behave. It's another interesting conversation to have. But what's important here is that because cats and dogs, trees and flowers, mountains and rivers are persons and not things, we are obligated to treat them with dignity and respect, and not merely as inanimate objects to be used at our convenience. Every person has value that is inherent to themselves and not dependent on their usefulness or their desirability to humans. What makes a person is mind. A cat mind is not the same as a human mind, but it is a mind. Those of us who share our homes with cats find that easy to understand. And also, a tree mind is not the same as a human mind, but it is a mind. That's harder for us to understand. British druid and philosopher Emma Restall-Orr says that mind is demonstrated by perception, awareness, and autonomy. She says that what makes a person is agency, the ability to do their own things for their own reasons. And as with mind, human agency is not the only agency there is. Here's a quote from her book, The Wakeful World: Animism, Mind, and the Self in Nature. A tree perceives the world around it. It's aware of gravity, light, and temperature, the resources within the soil into which it roots, the availability of water. By the way in which it adapts in order to make the most of its environment, we might say that the tree senses the changes of the seasons, for its perception is visceral sensation, and there is nothing in those words that definitively limits their use to human experience. The fact that the mind of a tree differs greatly from the mind of a human is a quantitative difference, not a qualitative difference. Orr says, indeed, how far can we simplify the parameters in order to use the term mind and succeed in drawing a justifiable line? The answer given by the animist is to decline the invitation to draw that line at all. It's easy for us to understand that a cat mind is a mind, even though it's different from a human mind. Is it really such a stretch to understand that while a tree mind is even more different from a human mind, it is still a mind? Orr says that the way we see the world is not actually the world itself. What we see is our idea of it. She says, no mind can perceive nature's actuality. What is perceived is nature's raw data, processed through the filters of perception, established by beliefs based on limitations and experiences. Even when our foundational assumption includes trees who are persons with their own inherent value and worth, even when we relate to a tree person as the tree it is, our experience of that tree person is necessarily filtered through our humanness. Translation is required. Those who know a bit about language understand that there's no such thing as a neutral translation. Every translation reflects interpretations and judgments made by the translator. If we can understand what our dogs and cats are trying to tell us, and often we can, it's because we spend so much time with them we intuitively understand their nonverbal signals. That familiarity allows us to translate with some accuracy. If we want to be able to accurately translate what the trees try to tell us, we have to be willing to spend enough time with them to begin to understand them. And that leads us to the most important implication of an animist worldview: the need for right relationships between persons and between species based on the inherent value of each person. Non-human persons are not here for our benefit. We call lions and tigers and bears predators because they will eat you if they get a chance, but that's simply what lions and tigers and bears do. They have the right to exist and to live their lives their way. That's easy for us to understand. Rivers and trees are not here for our benefit, and they have the right to live their lives their way. That's harder for us to understand. But if we have any affinity for nature, we can do it. Relating to non-human persons requires careful attention. On one hand, we must avoid anthropomorphizing them, assigning human attributes to persons who are not human. Part of this is basic respect. The value of other persons doesn't come from their similarity to us, as nice as those similarities may be. To us, anyway. Their value is inherent. They have it simply because they exist. Occasionally, I see people trying to feed their cats a vegan diet. This is abusive and potentially lethal for cats. They can't get enough protein and amino acids from a totally plant-based diet. Humans are omnivores. Cats are carnivores. We can choose to eat only plants. Cats don't have that option. Assigning human attributes to cats can get them killed. They're cat persons, not human persons. Too often we mindlessly expect other than human persons to relate to us like humans do. Then, when they don't, we decide they're just mindless things. This is at best a misunderstanding. Often it's arrogance. It's harder to recognize that storms and viruses are persons. They have the right to live their lives their way. That doesn't mean I'm going to stand outside in a thunderstorm, and it doesn't mean I'm going to skip vaccinations. I have no desire to form a relationship with a storm or a virus. Not every human person is going to respect us and treat us with kindness either. That doesn't mean they're not a person. It does mean I'm going to respect their personhood from a safe distance. All persons have the right to exist and to flourish. This includes non-human persons. And it includes human persons. I occasionally hear people say things like, humanity is a virus and nature needs to wipe us out. No. This is misanthropy. The best chance the earth has of evolving intelligent, compassionate life is for us to grow up. We have the same right to exist and to flourish as do all other persons. And we must eat to live. We may eat plant persons, or we may eat animal persons, or we may eat both. But either way, we eat or we die. There are ethical and practical arguments for vegetarianism and veganism. I'm an omnivore, but I acknowledge that those arguments have merit. But even if we eat only plants, we still eat what was a living person only a short time ago. There is no such thing as zero impact. Life feeds on life. This is a hard truth of nature. We must kill to eat. And so does every other animal on the planet. Whether we eat animal persons or plant persons, either we eat something that was very recently alive or we die. I suppose you could subsist on nothing but fruit and milk, but you'd be missing a lot of important nutrients. Plants feed on sunlight, but they require nutrients in the soil that come from the decaying bodies of other recently living animals and plants. Life feeds on life. Anthropologist Walter Burkert called our species Homo necans, man the killer. His theory was that this guilt was easy enough to deny when we were mostly gatherers and scavengers, like our primate cousins. But when we became hunters, much less when we began animal husbandry, the guilt over killing to eat became too strong to ignore. He proposed that early religious rituals were designed to purify ourselves from this guilt. I'm not sure I entirely agree with Burkert, but he's at least partially right. Modern fiction about guilt-ridden vampires has a certain truth to it. So where do we draw the line with what we eat, with who we eat? Animist or materialist, we have to figure out where to draw the line. Which species will we eat, and which ones will we decide are too close? Different people in different cultures draw the line in different places. I'm not going to eat cats or dogs or monkeys. It wouldn't feel right. But cows and chickens and pigs? Yeah. Some people won't eat mammals, but will eat fish and birds. Others won't eat any animals. As a Unitarian Universalist, I'm less concerned with where you draw the line than with how you draw the line, particularly in a culture where the vast majority of people have no connection to where their food comes from. Do you mindlessly eat what you've always been told to eat and mindlessly ridicule those who do otherwise? Or do you consider your place in nature and make a conscious decision based on your needs and desires? More importantly, do you acknowledge the sacrifices required to keep you alive? Do you honor those sacrifices, both in ritual and through sustainable practices? We must kill to eat, or have others do it for us. But we can still respect other persons, collectively, if not always individually. There is food that is raised in sustainable fashion that allows animals to be animals, and then there's factory farming. More importantly, we can respect other species as species, if not as individuals. When I was in high school, I read a science fiction story whose title has long escaped me, that said, "The first commandment of the universe is, 'Thou shalt not waste.'" We have the right to eat. We have no right to eat other species into extinction, either directly through slaughter or indirectly through habitat destruction. Every living thing we eat is a sacrifice. Its life is given or taken to sustain us. Can we acknowledge that sacrifice? Can we give thanks, not just to the Earth Mother, but also to the plants and animals that keep us alive? Can we honor that sacrifice by supporting ethical agriculture that ensures the continuity of the species that die to feed us? We must eat. May we eat mindfully. Animism is a worldview. It's a way of understanding the world and our place in it. It says that other beings are not things but persons with whom we can form and maintain relationships as persons. Not human persons, but as cat persons and tree persons and river persons. Animism helps us understand the world and our place in it. It reminds us that we are not the center of the universe and we are not the head of nature. Rather, we are one part. one part among many. Please join me in our closing hymn, number 61, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again.
We extinguish this chalice as our service comes to a close. If here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If you have found comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreams, help one another that they may come true. If you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. Go in peace.
It's easy to see our cats and dogs as persons. It's harder to see rivers and trees as persons. But they do their own things for their own reasons, and they have inherent value that does not depend on their usefulness to humans. And we can relate to them as persons. As we leave this place and return to the ordinary world, may we find our place in the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part.
Is ended. We invite you to stay for refreshments and conversation and sandwiches in Coleman Hall at the RE fundraiser.